Okay, this is Lillian Carr here, and we're going to talk a little bit about Lillian's case, and it goes back quite some time. Lillian was employed with Moyer's Chocolate for 40 years, and she was a member of the union for 20 years, the Bakery, Confection, and Tobacco Workers International Union. And in 1992, I think it was, Lillian, you became ill with hearing loss. All right. What happened? Like, how did that come about?
Well, I knew with the machines next to me all the time. And when the nurse started, I knew myself my hearing was going down. And then they started taking hearing tests. And every year you have to be on a nurse, and she takes your hearing test. And I say, well, can I go see if it's from last year? Because maybe some stuff. I didn't want to really make believe I really don't lose my hearing, right?
Yeah. And
so she said, Lillian, this is how you lose your hearing. So I take the papers and tear them up. And finally, after 2 years down the road, before I retired, I started falling on the street because they put an extra machine next to me. And I went to the nurse and I said, you can't leave that extra machine next to me like that. I said, that's just too much noise there, right? 2 machines and cut down on one girl. And she said, nothing I can do about it, the nurse. So I noticed that after that I started falling on the street on my way home from work. And I didn't tell anybody, I was too scared, you know, I didn't want to go to the hospital and stuff like that. So then I went down to her one day and I said, look, could you do up my whole form for me of my hearing that you've been giving me, you know, every year you've been doing my hearing for years or whatever.
Yeah.
She said, no problem, darling. Yeah, she said, I'm glad by the time you go and see a doctor. And she said, I told you before, you go see a doctor with a hearing problem, right? And so I got the paper all filled out with the application and everything, and took it to Dr. Katini. And as soon as he examined me, he said, you know, Lillian, he said, I could tell when you walked in my office that you were an honest person. And he said, you did lose your hearing.
Yeah.
And he said, it's from a noise from the factory. He said, no other reason, but it's from so much machinery. You worked around a lot of machinery.
Yeah. So you
worked there 40 years of your life.
Yeah. So right at that point in time, then the next thing was you went off on short-term disability, right? For 3 months.
Yeah, it was already getting me 3 months, and I even had to get the lawyer fight for them to get me back. Yeah. They didn't want to send them papers in and get me in.
Did the union do anything to help you at that point? No. Okay, so you're off on short-term disability for 3 months. Now that ends, and the next thing you applied for workman's compensation. Yeah. What happened there? They
said, well, there's nothing we can do for you. We don't accept you because you're saying for the hearing. We don't give any money for a hearing loss, and so you're best bet, I guess, go your Canada Disability Pension.
Okay, so you went to your Canada Disability Pension, and that was back in 1993, and you got it.
Yeah, that's
no problem.
No problem.
So from you went off work in '92.
Yeah.
Short-term disability for 3 months.
Yeah.
And then in '93 you get your Canada pension, and all along, and then in 2000, I think we met around 2000.
Yeah.
And then we started working together on a little deal there, and we did approach Moyer's, and Moyer's did buy you a hearing aid for $1,300, right? Yeah. Now that was wonderful. So they realized at that point in time that there was a problem that the company had created, and they felt a little guilty about it, I suppose. The next thing that happened was we went back. I went back, and other injured workers tried to help you get your benefits reinstated, and back to square one, nothing happened. But I must mention a workers' advisor lawyer by the name of Bill McDonald did take your case on, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
What did Bill say?
He said, I think, looks like you got a good case here, Lillian. I said, oh, that's good. I'm glad you're saying that. Nobody else wants to listen. And he said, no, you got a real good case here. And took it on, I don't know, a couple of years or whatever, how long he ever took it on for, I can't remember. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, he calls me up and says, Lillian, he said, I have to give your case off because he said, I was told I wouldn't be able to win it in the courtroom. Yeah. So after I stepped down, I thought about it, and I called him up. I said, I don't like that phone call you just gave me. I said, that wasn't very nice. He said, you've got your money, what the hell with me, right? Yeah. You're thinking about mine, right? I have to go with no money, right? I have no money coming in my door.
Well, what happened back then was, I think it was Ann Clark was the head workers advisor.
Yeah, it was her.
Yeah, and probably Bill McDonald was right. Your case was winnable.
Yeah.
And another thing that he did acknowledge is that they did cover hearing loss at the Workmen's Compensation Board when they told you they didn't.
Yeah.
So anyway, what was happening back at that time, Ann Clark was judge and jury at that time in her own mind, and she was saying, this one we'll fight, that one we won't.
Yeah.
Not based on evidence and medical evidence, it was her choosing at the time. I think that's why they shipped her up to the Yukon. But anyway, so now, that was one hearing aid that Moyers got for you in 2004. Now you get another one after that from the Workmen's Compensation Board bought you one, didn't
Yeah, $1,400.
$1,400.
What's the name of the place you told you?
Pugsley.
Beltone.
Beltone.
No, the first one was
Pugsley, and then
Second one
Beltone.
was Beltone.
And now, here we are.
Atlantic Institute.
Okay. But now here we are today, and you have another new hearing aid in your ear.
Yes.
And that was bought by
Compensation
Board of Nova Scotia, and they paid how much?
$3,000.
$3,000, and they got it from the Atlantic Institute of Hearing.
Yeah.
Hearing Institute Atlantic. That's where they got it from.
Yeah.
So they bought you 2 hearing aids. The company bought you 1 hearing aid after a big long hiatus. What amazes me is they recognize your deafness was created by the workplace.
Yeah.
But how much have they ever given you?
No money at all.
They've never given you 1 red cent.
No.
The only money you received was from Canada Pension. Without them, you would have starved to death, really.
But that wasn't very much money coming in.
No. And you raised a child at that time. You were single. It was a hard go.
Yeah.
You know. So this is the problem. Like what I'm trying to get the Deputy Minister of Labour and the Department of Labour to realize. They have the power to go down to the Workmen's Compensation Board down there and to stop this kind of abuse. You are a loyal employee of Moyers Chocolate for 40 years. You paid union dues for 20 years. The union turned its back on you, the company turned its back on you, and the Workmen's Compensation and the Department of Labour turned their back on you. I would probably say that you're not the only one in that category. But Lillian, what I am going to do is I'm going to look over your case. Bill McDonald now has got the new job down there. He's the new head of the Workers Advisors.
Oh, yeah.
And Bill, I think, is getting paid around $210,000 a year. I think that's what it is. So if you had a good case back then, Lillian, maybe Bill McDonald, now that he's in the driver's seat, will think you still have a good case.
That's true, right? Yeah.
And I do hear that the Workmen's Compensation Board, now this is only rumor, last week wrote a check for a gentleman who is 85 years old because he has a bad knee. Now, that's a rumor to this point, but I am told that there will be proof. So that means to me, if they'll pay out an 85-year-old man for a bad knee, then there's no reason why they can't pay you out and help you out right now in your time of need in your senior years.
Yeah.
So what we'll do is I'll give this a go and put it together, and I'll put a letter together, and we'll send it down to the Deputy Minister of Labour and the senior bureaucrats at the Department of Labour. The Workmen's Compensation Board, as far as I'm concerned, are not at fault here. The Department of Labour is at fault. They own that child down there. They're letting the abuse happen to people like you, and they should be ashamed of themselves.
Well, they should be, really.
Yeah. They have good jobs down there, those boys. I mean, Martin McDonald down there, the Deputy Minister, is probably getting a couple $100,000 a year.
And here they're making poor people suffer.
Yeah. But anyway, we'll end that for now, and I'll work on this for you this week.
Do you send pictures in on that too and everything?
Just hang on now.